Hello and welcome. I am Exit Light and this is my podcast. Today, as usual, my partner in crime, my BFF, Rob is here. Hello, Rob.
Hey Tracy, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic. Never been better. Living the dream. Haven't been out of my house in 6 weeks. How are you?
Hey, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm a bit stir crazy. Brings back all the
Um,
memories. Brings back all the memories of being locked up. But there you go. You
well,
know,
I don't
I like,
have any of those memories,
yeah, I like
thankfully.
to I like to revisit them every few years.
Do you? I think I'll just let you do that by yourself.
Okay.
Before we get started, Rob and I are wanting to take a crazy, wild adventure to all the haunted places that we can manage in the New England area. And on my channels page, if you are on a laptop or on a computer, there is a link that goes to PayPal, and you can make a donation. And we will go on this trip, this road trip for you guys. We're going to take one for the team and go to all the scary places. So if you would like to donate to that, feel free. Also, I have new merchandise that I will be putting up here very soon.
Yay!
Yay! And
Hey,
I'm excited about that.
it's very good.
And also, this is where Rob gets to do his part.
Don't forget. Don't forget. It's important to smash that like button because it helps the channel so much. And don't forget to share this video with the world.
Yeah, we're all locked in
That's
the house.
Yeah, we're all locked in. We're all locked in together. Well, not together, but hypothetically, metaphorically speaking, we're all locked in together.
And if you'd like to be notified when my content goes live, and why wouldn't you? Go ahead and click that bell. So, what we're going to talk about today is Bigfoot. Is that
Dun,
right,
dun,
Rob?
dun. We certainly are.
Not just Bigfoot, but the fact that there are big feet all around the world. Bigfoot's big. What is more than one Bigfoot?
Um, Bigfootery.
A pod of big feet?
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. I
A
don't know.
she shop. I don't know.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
A she shop of
And
Bigfoot.
a flock of Bigfoot. I don't know. That's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to go ahead and get started because I'm going to do something that is 10 reasons why you should believe in Bigfoot. Are you ready, Rob?
Always born
Okay.
ready.
All right. First off, have you ever seen Bigfoot and Donald Trump in the same place at the same time? No. And you believe in Donald Trump. So there you go. All right. Number 10. There's scientific uncertainty. Well, it often appears that science knows pretty much everything there is to know, which I don't know about that, but the fact is that science is always in a state of flux, as one hypothesis is abandoned in favor of another, or new discoveries come to light that rewrite everything scientists thought they knew to be a fact previously. Therefore, it is unwise to maintain with any approaching certainty that this is not possible, much less what could still be out there waiting to be discovered, because frankly, new species of things are discovered all the time.
Yep.
And so it's not unimaginable. Now, with this in mind, it's important that people remain objective to the possibility that Bigfoot could exist. For without that objectivity, it makes getting to the truth of the matter all the more difficult. Also, I'm going to throw in my own reason why you should believe in Bigfoot. Our government is telling us that there are UFOs. Did you hear it? Because it barely made the news. Because we're in a pandemic and we're all locked in the house and we're worried about, other things like where to get toilet paper and Lysol. So, you know, there could be Bigfoot, and they just haven't. That's coming out next week, in the middle of May. That'll be our new distraction. Okay, well, UFOs didn't work. There is a Bigfoot, and we'll be like, no kidding. So, yeah, I just have to add that because that's fascinating to me. Yeah, last year at this time, first off, there was a video released um, around last year at this time, but again, they declassified documentation showing that there were UFOs, and there was literally a blip in the news, like it didn't even register, and that's how you know 2020 is the craziest year yet. Anyway, we're like, okay, great, but do they have a vaccine? Because if not, I'm not really giving a shit right now. Okay. If I know there's no such thing as Bigfoot, I'm really unlikely to look at evidence that there is, much less look for the creature itself. Well, I can tell you one thing, I'm not going to look at the creature or the creature myself. No, that's not for me. Here we go. The next one is historical precedents. I've always wondered why science is so quick to reject the notion that there could be a large, as yet unidentified primate living on this planet, especially when one considers that Homo sapiens and large primates have lived side by side on this planet for tens of thousands of years. In fact, in the over 250,000 years that man has been on Earth, he has shared this world with numerous now extinct primates, some as big or even bigger than Bigfoot, making it hard to understand why it's so impossible today. Were it actually true that there are no large primates around today, it would be the first time in human history that Homo sapiens and large primates did not coexist. Write that down.
I'm writing now.
Okay. Gigantopithecus.
That's the one.
Gigantopithecus. This is it. Gigantopithecus. Here was an animal that would be a real life Bigfoot were it live today, which it may be. Existing between 9 million years ago until as recently as 100,000 years ago, Gigantopithecus was a massive primate that may have stood as tall as 10 feet and weighed over half a ton. So why does it serve as a reason to believe it's Bigfoot? Because, once more, there is precedence for large primates existing today. In existence, the beast proves that primates are capable of getting as big, or actually even bigger, than modern descriptions of Bigfoot. In fact, Bigfoot is rarely thought to get taller than 8 feet, making it sort of puny compared to Gigantopithecus. While the fact that there used to be monster primates doesn't prove that there are today, it does suggest that if there is such a thing as a Sasquatch, it would not be inconsistent with what we have seen in the past regarding primate physiology and evolution. So, there you go. That is true. And the thought of a 10-foot ape is nightmare inducing to me. I can't even imagine.
Carnivore as well.
Yes, a carnivore as well. I don't like it. If anybody cares. All right. Number
Jawbone.
7.
Don't forget the jawbone.
Oh, it's not here, but they did. Oh yeah, they did find the jawbone of this animal, and it, according to Rob, it could fit a human head in its mouth.
Yep.
So wouldn't want to run into that in a dark alley. Discovery of the modern gorilla. The gorilla was largely unknown to modern science. This is really weird. Until the mid 19th century, and the mountain gorilla wasn't identified until 1902. What?
Yeah.
So it's not unreasonable to imagine that a similar creature may well be capable of hiding well into the 21st century, especially if it's considerably smarter than a gorilla and nomadic. Additionally, the discovery of the mountain gorilla begs the question of why, if it's possible for large primates to exist in Africa today, it's impossible for large primates to exist elsewhere on the planet. Is there something unique to Africa that makes it special in this regard? Clearly, logic suggests that if large primates are possible anywhere, they should be at least potentially possible elsewhere. Additionally, the fossil record shows us that large primates were at what? You guys, my brain is in neutral right now, so please forgive me for this. Additionally, the fossil records show that large primates were evident through much of Asia as recently as a few tens of thousands of years ago, which shows that Africa wasn't the only place that existed. The Bering Land Bridge. We're all familiar with the theory that early man may have migrated from Asia to North America via the Bering Land Bridge that connected the two continents together about 20,000 years ago. Not only did humans make the crossing, but so did many other animals, including woolly mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and a whole host of critters. The question that needs to be asked then is if humans and large animals were able to migrate across the connecting point, why couldn't other creatures? Why couldn't something such as Bigfoot, especially any large primates that may have been around at the time? This would, after all, rather neatly account for how a large primate like Bigfoot could make up North America as its home, and yet leave no trace of itself in the fossil record. Native American legends. Rob, you want to say anything right now? You want to add anything? You want to stop me and take the mic for a second?
No, I agree with everything you said. I you know what how I feel about Bigfoot. I do genuinely believe that Bigfoot exists, and I believe there are different types of Bigfoot all over the globe. Like you just said, they around Asia and in Russia and North America. There's so many places on this planet that are that aren't that have not been explored yet.
Yeah,
And you know, you look at the size of Russia, um, it's even bigger than North America, and there's lots and lots of parts of Russia that haven't been explored. You know, I think just to turn around and say that this creature does not exist without all the evidence is just a mistake and it's wrong.
right.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the thing, the fact that so many different countries, continents throughout history have had this in their history going tens of thousands of years back, where these people had no way to communicate with each other, and they all had the same
Mm.
basic description
Yeah.
of this animal, doesn't that show that there had to have been something? I think it does. So, anyway, if if almost every continent in the whole world has a description of a Bigfoot like animal and their own name for it, and all the Native American tribes have their own name for it, it seems to me that it must have existed. That's my. And speaking of that, Native American legends. Well, one is never wise to put too much stock in a Native American folklore, which that was rude, by the way. One would be equally unwise to casually dismiss all of them. The fact that many tribes, especially those from the Pacific Northwest, where I'm from, maintain similar legends of large, hairy men needs to be taken into account, especially since many of these legends appear to have arisen independently among various tribes that had little or no contact with each other, eliminating. Whoops, my phone just did something weird. Eliminating the possibilities that one culture simply copied a story from another culture and made it their own, which is known as cross cultural contamination. While each tribe has its own twist on the legend and their own name for the beast, they all appear to be talking about a similar creature that existed long before the white man ever arrived. Many tribes, in fact, maintain the truth of these legends to this day, insisting they are based on a real creature and not superstition. Well, it doesn't make sense that they'd all have the same superstition. Okay, number 4, eyewitness evidence. While the term Bigfoot wasn't coined until the 1950s, reports of the hairy beast go back centuries, challenging the notion that it's purely a modern phenomenon. Additionally, there have been literally thousands of first-hand reports collected by various investigative agencies over the years regarding the animal. We can assume many more thousands go unreported. Yes, I would assume that. Often by credible witnesses, most significantly among them being professional hunters who are intimately familiar with the region's native fauna and so should be very difficult to fool. While undoubtedly there are hoaxers contained within this mix, and a number of people who misidentify known animals for unknown ones, like bears, are common for that. To assume that absolutely every single report is wrong is unreasonable. Clearly,
That's the problem, Chase. Sorry
yeah,
to interrupt you.
no,
That is the problem. These people that pretend to be Bigfoot and dress up in these silly suits, that is what keeps people saying that it's not real and it's just a hoax.
yeah,
I, it annoys me it really, really annoys me because, we're trying, there are people out there that are trying to do this in a scientific way and try and prove that Bigfoot exists. And you've got these idiots running around the forest dressed up in a big gorilla costume,
yeah.
and you know you're not doing yourselves any favors.
To get their 15 minutes of fame,
Yeah,
have somebody take a picture of them, and or to make big, excuse the pun, big feet, so that people can find them, and then or they can find them and be like, oh, I found a Bigfoot foot. I, that's very weird. A Bigfoot's foot, and get their 15 minutes of fame, and then it's all fake. So yeah, that ruins it. One bad apple. Um. So let's see. Hair samples.
mm,
Well, there are a number of hair samples that have been acquired over the years purporting to be from Bigfoot. And while the majority of these prove to be from known animals, there are a small number of samples that remain unidentified to this day. Often these unidentified follicles prove to be remarkably human-like, though much thicker, suggesting that the creature they came from may be more human than animal. That's frightening. Unfortunately, since there are no known Sasquatch samples to compare them to, they can't be identified as belonging to a Sasquatch, which forces them to remain in the category of origin unknown, which, if you think about it, is pretty interesting in itself.
Well, a lot of people think that Bigfoot could be the missing link
Right?
between the way evolution went.
Uh-huh.
There seems to be a gap
Mm-hmm.
between early man,
Yeah.
and then obviously as we progressed, they think there could have been an offshoot which went into being the apes, and I always get myself muddled up here. And there's a specific name for the apes and the gorillas and the primates, yeah. And this could be the missing link. And that's why the DNA is very, very similar to human DNA, but it is similar in some respects, but there are a lot of differences in it.
Mm-hmm.
So so carry on, because I am itching to get started.
I'm sorry. I'm
No, go on.
footprints and other evidence. Bigfoot got his name from the size of the massive tracks he makes, so it's not remarkable that the best evidence for existing remains these tracks. While a number of prints have proven to be hoaxes, there are a substantial number of what are considered authentic Sasquatch prints that need to be taken seriously. Perhaps the most compelling of these are those contained in the collection of Idaho State University primatologist Jeff Meldrum, who has one casting that contains dermal ridges, the foot's equivalent to fingerprints, that run in a completely different direction than those seen on human feet.
Yeah.
Would a hoaxer really be able to both create such ridges, and even if he was, whoops, hold on, my phone did that weird thing again. And even if he was, would he think of making them so different from human feet? There are other evidence as well, such as twisted off branches, possible Sasquatch dens, audio recordings of the creature, but these are less easily subject to analysis, though some of the recordings have proven to be compelling when submitted for audio analysis. Now, there's some kind of animal that makes a noise that people think is Bigfoot. I'm trying to think of what it is. Is it a coyote?
Yeah, it's like a cry, like a scream.
Yeah. I live in Texas, and before I moved, you could hear the coyotes at night, and they sounded like one screaming, B crying babies. It was really weird. So people have it. Yeah, that's during their mating season. I don't know, whatever, but there are animals that there's something else too. There's some other animal like I said, my brain is in neutral, that they have recorded that sounds like it could be a Bigfoot. But like I said, like I just read, the audio analysis can tell the difference between that and.
I know what it is.
What is it?
It's a chupacabra.
That's what it is. It's a chupacabra. Yeah. Such a disappointment that those aren't real. All right. So, number one, and I know you're going to talk about this, the Gimlin Patterson film. As a matter of fact, I think I'll skip this one because you're going to talk about it.
Okay. In October, reportedly shot in October 1967, nearly a year before I was born, in the heavily wooded forest in northern California. It's the most heavily analysed piece of film in American history. That's a big statement to make.
Yeah. Is that true? Because I
It's
would think that the JFK tapes.
I was just thinking that as well, JFK.
Yeah.
But it says the most heavily analysed piece of film in American history. To some, this is definitive proof that Bigfoot is as real as a mountain gorilla. For others, it's a hoax, alongside videos claiming to show ghosts, aliens, and lizard people. They're all real anyway.
The royal family, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. It caught me unawares then. But Kimlin knows exactly what he saw that day. It walked upright for quite a long way. It didn't look like a bear. I had been in the woods his whole life. The 86-year-old Gimlin tells, there is no doubt in my mind what it was. Now, lots of people have said about the suit. They have analysed the suit. I have watched everything about this film that has ever been shown on TV, on YouTube. I have watched everything. In 1967, if you believe that it was fake and it was a man wearing a suit, they believe that in 1967 they wouldn't have been able to make a suit that was so convincing. They just didn't have the special effects to do that, because you can actually see the muscle moving as they believe it was a female
Yeah.
Bigfoot. They can actually see the muscle move, and the when it actually turns to look at the camera at one stage, and you can actually see the shadow in the face, and it even looks like it's got breasts, and it's just would have been too difficult to make this suit so real. And and I've also seen the footage. I don't know if you've seen this footage, Tracer, but it's very, very up and down, the footage, because they were trying to get behind the tree and try and film it. But they have actually got the footage and steadied it, so it's not all up and down, up and down, up and down. It's just like it's walking, and you can actually see the Bigfoot without the shaking, without anything, just smoothly walking along.
Mm-hmm.
And these two men, who had been out, according to them, spent their whole life out in this Northern California, were finding it really, really difficult to move and get into a position where they could film. This animal, this Bigfoot, is walking. It's almost like it's gliding over the floor, because its stride was so big.
Mm-hmm.
They reckon the size was about 7.5 foot. They've done comparisons, and they believe about 7.5 foot tall. And yeah, I believe the footage is real. I mean, how do you feel about the fact about the suit? I mean, I don't know if you'd heard that fact that they couldn't have made a suit that good. Today they could do it today, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking over 50 years ago.
Yeah, well, as an example, the same year that film came out, I think it was the first Planet of the Apes came out. And I've been watching on Amazon Prime, there's a video, a documentary called Don't Call Me Bigfoot. Because I guess that people that are really into these investigations don't like the term Bigfoot, which I'm not even sure I remember why. But so they were talking about the cleaned up video, and that you could they circled the different muscles so that you could watch the muscles move when the creature walked. So when it turned, you could see the shoulder, the shoulder muscle
Mm.
move. You could see the calves move. You could see back muscles move. You could see the muscles in the arms, the upper arms, and they were saying that that Planet of the Apes came out at the same time. This was a movie that had professional um, costume creators, makeup artists, and they put them side by side with the is it the Patterson Gimlin
Yeah.
film, and they don't even look close. They and don't get me wrong, because the Planet of the Apes was, I mean, those costumes were stunning. But I mean, especially, I mean, considering how old that those movies are.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have muscles, or you know, when they moved, you couldn't see the movement in the shoulder
Yeah.
compared to this film. And like this said in this documentary, these were professional costume makers, and it didn't even cross their mind that we should put like muscles in there. Like they have the Planet of the Apes movies now, which are mostly CGI, so
Yeah.
they can put stuff like that in there now. But I mean, there was no CGI back then,
No.
and so I have never really known what to think about that film, but it was really interesting to see it cleaned up and to see the muscles move, because that would have been, I believe, not something that a prankster would have thought of. Was like, oh, we got, and the technology wouldn't have been there.
No, that's true.
So you have to kind of look at it again in those regards and think, with this new cleaned up version, that it's impossible to deny that there are muscles moving. What makes it that? What I don't. Here's what I don't understand. Why? Why do they think it's a female? Because I mean, don't male primates have breast things?
I'm sure the original footage, the actual Gimlin footage, the they think it's a female. I'm
Yeah,
sure they
yeah.
do.
No, they do. Even in the documentary, they call her a she, and I, but I just don't understand why.
Because it looks, for all intents and purposes, like she's got breasts.
Yeah, but don't male primates aren't they built the same way?
Uh, no, they're different, aren't they? It's like when you look at if you look at a gorilla, a male gorilla, and you look at a female gorilla, they're very different.
But
They
is
look,
that a female gorilla who's nursed a child? Is that so?
maybe
Maybe,
that's the difference. She
yeah,
maybe she was had a baby.
a mother. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe she had a baby.
Oh, oh my God. There, I love you saying baby in your accent.
Baby.
Yes, so cute. Anyway, yeah, so I think that people who have never seen the new cleaned up footage should definitely go take a look at that.
Yeah, be on YouTube. There's loads of stuff on YouTube about
Yeah, or and
Sasquatch and
also
Bigfoot.
you can go watch that Don't Call Me Bigfoot, because that is actually, I thought this is gonna be effing nut jobs. Um, it's so funny because as much as I could believe in some things, I'm the biggest skeptic,
Yeah,
and even in like other people's paranormal stories, I'm looking for what could this actually be? You know what I mean? But it's undeniable that this would have been technologically impossible back then. So go take a look. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about while you have the mic?
Yeah, I'd like to just move it on a little bit from the footage, if that's okay.
Yeah.
This elusive, in brackets, possibly fictitious animal goes by a number of different names. Obviously, there's a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yowie.
Can I say something about Sasquatch real quick?
Yeah, of course you can.
Apparently, it's mostly known as Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest, where I come from, which includes like Idaho, Washington, Oregon, which I guess a bunch of the tribes had Indian tribes, Native American tribes had a bunch of different names for this creature, hairy man and stuff like that. So when the Bigfoot like really took off in the 50s, the people who were investigating it started to call it all the different. They took all the different names and they just decided we'll just give it one name, which was Sasquatch. Which growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I didn't even know that. I think I probably called it Bigfoot. Anyway, go ahead.
So obviously Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yowie, skunk ape. And
where's the skunk ape from? Isn't that South? The American South?
No, that's North America.
Yeah, I mean, but is it? Oh yeah,
it's down by the
Florida,
Alabama, the swamps, is it the
Louisiana.
Everglades? Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, they call it a skunk ape because it's obviously because you smell it before you see it, basically.
Ah, okay.
And there's one here that I can't pronounce very well. It's Yayala, Yayali,
Oh.
Yayala. For centuries, people across North America have had sightings. Many, going back to Native Americans, many Native American cultures have written oral legends that tell of a primate-type creature roaming the continental forest. In these tales, the animals are sometimes more human-like, and other times they're more ape-like. Just before I carry on, something else that I've heard and something else that I've read. A lot of people think that there are different types of. There are more than one type of Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Do you know the guy? I can't think what his name was. Who collects the footprint? No, the the guy that collects the footprints.
Oh, yes, from Eastern Idaho University.
Yeah, Meldrew. Is it Meldrew or
Mudrin?
But anyway,
Yeah.
he has got loads and loads and loads and loads of footprints and loads of different hair samples and everything. He looks at it as a scientist. He's not there to tell you Bigfoot exists and I can prove it. He's there. I have got this evidence. Make your own mind up. But he believes that maybe there are different types. So just what I've just read there, sometimes more human-like and other times more ape-like.
Well, that makes sense because, well, if they were evolving as well, then it seems like there would be, and humans aren't all the same.
Yeah. In mythology, in the mythology of the Coatul tribe, the once heavily populated western coast of British Columbia, is a big, hairy female that lives deep in the mountains, in the mountainous forests. And this is something that you said pretty much word for word earlier. Some tribes really love Bigfoot. Other tribes, though, he is an absolute ogre, a monster, and sometimes best left alone.
I think I'll go with that.
According to legend, she spends most of her time protecting her children and sleeping, hence why she is rarely seen. In fact, some name Sasquatch comes from. I'm sorry if anybody's if there's any Native Americans listening to this because I'm absolutely murdering all the names of the different tribes. Hako, Halko Melon, a language spoken by several First Native people that occupied the upper Northwest and British Columbia. In California, there are centuries-old pictographs drawn by Yokuts that appear to show a family of giant creatures with long, shaggy hair called Mayak Datants. Mayak Datants by the tribe. The image bears a resemblance to the commonly held version of Bigfoot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I got some other names they're known as, if I
Go
could
on
do
then.
that. By the way, the Yeti is also known as the Abominable Snowman,
Yeah.
which, uh, if anybody's ever watched that, what the one of the Christmas Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You know who the Abominable Snowman is. He's a lovable creature. He just has a toothache. Um, he is also known as. Did you say Yowie already?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay. Almas.
No,
The
didn't say that.
Almas. The Almas are known in Mongolia as hairy bipedal humanoids. Unlike the neighboring Yeti, they are believed to be more human than ape, but they are just as elusive. The Grassman. And the Ohio grassman is believed to be a Bigfoot existing in a specific niche and surviving in the rich farmland of Ohio. And this one we talked about yesterday, I believe. The Wendigo.
He always seems to pop up every podcast.
Hailing from the woods of Canada, the Wendigo, or Wendigo, is a big, hairy man-like creature from Native American legends. And my 17-year-old son gave Rob and I a big just apparently there's a game where you can decide who the Wendigo kills, which is lovely, lovely. The Orang Pendek, which is from Sumatra and only a few feet tall. Oh, that's another thing I heard, that they found these on that document, Don't Call Me Bigfoot. They found these tiny little versions of Bigfoot that are like 2 feet tall, and they found their skeletons. And that's adorable. Um, the Orang Pendek is definitely an example of a bizarre Bigfoot-like critter from an unexpected place, and there may be more similarities than we think. And they used to be called. This was the basis for what hobbits are. Even more intriguing is the idea that Orang Pendek could actually be some kind of human ancestor, perhaps a relic population of the tiny hobbit humans found in the island of Flores. I want one. Can you give me that for Christmas, Rob?
Oh, yeah. So I can there, so be.
Mapingari. The Mapingari is one of the most debated of the Bigfoot cousins from around the world. hailing from the jungles of South America. Many accounts of the Mapangari describe it as something similar to Bigfoot or Sasquatch. It would make sense as any Bigfoot population in North America certainly could migrate down to South America. The Yeren, it's a creature that lives in the forests of China and is described as something very close to Bigfoot in size and appearance. Also called the Chinese wild man. And yeah, so there are a couple other names.
Well, you know Yowie, the name
Yeah,
Yowie. I was always under the impression that's what they called Bigfoot in Australia, the Yowie.
yeah, that's what my thing says.
Yeah, so I've never heard of the North Americans calling the word Yowie,
Mhm.
but this next bit is a little bit coming. I'll read this to everybody. Native Americans weren't the only ones seeing this hairy primate creature roaming the wilds of America. 19th and early 20th century newspapers had had whole sections devoted to the miners, trappers, gold prospectors, and woodsmen claiming to have seen the wild man, the bear man, the monkey men. Most famously, in 1924, a group of prospectors hunkering down in a cabin along the shoulder of St. Mount Helen in Washington State. I don't know if you know that.
No, it's Mount St. Helen.
Mount St. What did I say?
St. Mount Helen.
Well, right, there you go.
Yeah,
Mount St.
that's the volcano that blew when I was
Oh.
a kid. Yeah,
Well, they were down, hunkering down. I don't know what hunkering means, but there you go.
hunkering. Is that
Hunkering down.
yeah?
I don't even
Hunkering
know
means like, for instance, you know how we're in you know, house jail right now.
what
It
lockdown.
means
Yeah.
we're hunkering down. You're
Ah, right.
yeah, you're
Okay.
yeah, just hunkering down.
They were attacked one late. They were attacked late one night. Oh, excuse me, by a group of 8 men. Later, one of the prospectors admitted that they weren't unprovoked attacks. He had taken pot shots at the creature earlier that day. Even then, as noted in Chad Arment's 2006 book, Historical Bigfoot, these accounts, like the ones from the prospectors in 1924, were often regarded with a general sense of skepticism, often due to the unreliable nature of the witnesses. Well, it's like anything, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like if you say you see a UFO, if you say you see a ghost, if you say you see a Bigfoot, people are going to take the piss and
hmm
call it's, um, I don't know. I just do think people are scared um, to be honest nowadays.
yeah.
To be honest, I
Well,
just,
like I said, I think this is going to be released in the next couple weeks. We're going to find out that there's Bigfoot, that there's the Tooth Fairy, there is Santa. Look at the shiny! Look at the shiny! It's going to be incredible. All these things we're going to find out. We're going to find out what happened to John Benet Ramsey. It's we're going to find out what happened to that little girl, that Madeline McCann. All the mysteries of the world are going to be released to us.
can we move, please, my lady, to from North America to the Himalayas?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, my good lady.
I do want to add something about the intelligence of the Bigfoot being more like human than ape. If you remind me coming up when you're done.
Okay, hang on. Do you want to do that now? Because my computer seems to have froze. Do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, sure.
And
So in
I'll,
that documentary about Don't Call Me Bigfoot, they were talking about how these Bigfoot trackers, I mean, they really put some thought into this. This is um really well thought out, I don't know how to explain it, process they go through. So they look at, like, let's say, the United States. They find the very, very wooded places where there's hundreds and thousands and millions of acres where nobody owns the property, nobody goes. There no humans are there. They look Then they look to where there would be a source of water. Is there a river? Is there a lake? Especially rivers, though, because if you're living amongst the trees and things, and you need water, you would need to be by a body of water. To for food, fish, and just in general, you're going to need water. And so they like helicopter into these places because you can't. There's no roads, and can't hike into them because they're too far away. Can't drive into them. So they helicopter into these places, and they meander around, like looking for signs. And the signs are twisted or broken off large trees that seem to be like the only ones in the area. So there wasn't a storm, but there's more than one, so it wasn't just old. And so they were interviewing this man he's one of the main parts of the documentary, and he said that he thinks that, like people, Bigfoot gets, bored, and so that there's a couple of reasons why they have tormented people who do go into their area. One, because they don't want them there. Two, because it's sort of entertainment for them. For people who have said that they've had their tents shaken in the middle of the night and heard the scream of the Bigfoot, scared the daylights out of them. They think that that's like a, a playful, I mean, you wouldn't want to come out and shake his hand, but to them, that's amusing because they're scaring you. But he found that in the middle of nowhere, like I said, where you're helicoptered in, there will be a circle of rocks,
yeah,
a pile of wood that has not been burned, but it looks like it's going to be. Random clothing, like thrown, like hanging off of trees, just just random that don't match, And then, so he said he walked up to this location that had the fire pit, but there was no fire. Random clothes that were not for the same temperature. And then behind that, in the distance, there were logs, trees knocked down and put upon each other
yeah,
that looked like what in Texas we call a hunting blind. And that he believes that they set up traps that way. That if anybody does go in there, they could, get them because they would be like, oh, there must be people around here. Sit down by the fire, you make a fire, which wants me, if I can move from that on to stories we've done about children and humans that have children and humans. They're not the same species, by the way. Yes, children and people who have gone missing without trace in national forests. We did a story about that little 6-year-old boy who had gone missing without a trace. He was playing hide and go seek, and they were hiding from the adults, and they came out, to just scare the adults. Ooh, look at us, we're scaring you. And this one 6-year-old boy wasn't there. Miles away, another 6-year-old boy saw this hairy, what he described as a huge man covered in hair carrying a small boy over his shoulder. And for the second time in history, well, the first one was an abduction of a child, that the special armed forces teams went in to the area. Now, they're not allowed. Military is not allowed to go into a national forest with
firearms.
Firearms. They're not called for missing children or missing people, unless it's considered, like possible, like let's say a serial killer or a murderer or whatever on the loose. That it goes through the channel. It goes through the Parks Department. The Parks Department can call the sheriff. The sheriff calls the state police. If they want to get any higher than that, they have to call the governor. The governor has to okay the military. So this was the second time in history that the military had ever been called in. They went in fully armed, with large weaponry to try and find this boy. And one of the FBI agents who had been in that search said that he couldn't say everything he knows, but what he does know is that you don't go fully armed with the equipment they went in with, unless you're going against something mightier and stronger than you are. And he fully believes it. For whatever reason, they thought that the government believed it was Bigfoot involved.
Yeah.
So, maybe this is an area, because as you know, there's millions of acres in the United States that just go unused. But I wanted to bring that part up, that that for some reason that story always sticks in my mind, as it is known that there are Bigfoot, because they went in armed to the teeth to find this little boy who normally you would think probably just wandered off. But then, of course, you have this other 6-year-old boy miles away saying he saw a tall, hairy man carrying him. And then, boom, the special forces are there. And then it happened again, like 2 years later, in the exact same area, just 2 miles away.
There's definitely something suspicious going on.
Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to add that, because to me that adds credence to, we know there's something. And whatever those men were searching for, which that FBI agent didn't, or release, didn't say, whatever they were searching for, they knew what it was, because they had to know what to be on the lookout for, and they were armed for it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's interesting what you just said. Just it adds to the story, adds to the suspense of the story.
Yeah.
So we've moved over now to the Himalayas.
Mm-hmm.
And for decades, people have reported seeing an ape-like man roaming the snowy wastes of the Himalayas. Is there any truth to these tales? You can probably picture a Yeti, even if you've never visited the Himalayas. From Scooby-Doo to Doctor Who, Tintin and Monsters Inc., the abominable, I can't say that word, the abominable snowman.
Abominable snowman from Rudolph. Yes.
Abominable snowman.
Abominable.
Stop saying it, because then I'll say it, and then you'll say it, and I'll say it, and then we'll be saying it and saying it and saying it.
Until it no longer sounds like a word.
Oh, you can probably. Hang
You're
on.
so grouchy today.
You just broke my computer again. He's popped up regularly in films, video games, and television for decades. Right. Do you remember there was an incident that happened in about 1950, and it was a bunch of students who were all expert skiers and outdoorsmen, and it's something like the Diatlo Pass incident.
Oh,
Anyway,
yes.
they
Detloff. Detloff Pass.
yeah, they went. If you like a good mystery, forget about Bigfoot for a second. If you like a good mystery, then it's worth looking this up on YouTube. But
You don't have to go very far because it's on my channel.
it's on. I knew that. Um, but anyway, these students, let's say there were about 10 of them, they went out to go on, and they were all students. Obviously, it was really snowy and cold, and they had their tents, they had all the proper equipment that they needed. They were dropped off. There's a photograph of them getting dropped off, and they started on their way. Basically, there was an incident that happened, and there was an incident that happened, and they disappeared. Anyway, they were found. All of them were dead. They had basically just run out of the tents
Yep.
with no clothes on.
Yep.
They were found in different. Some were found still in the winter. Some were found then in the spring after the snow had gone. But the bodies were really, really well preserved. One of them had his tongue
Yep.
removed. One of them, or two of them, they said it was as though they'd been hit by a truck. Every bone in the body was broken, and there's loads and loads of rumours whether it was something to do with the Russian government trying to cover it up. But they had a camera with them, and they took loads and loads and loads of photographs. The last photograph they had taken was of beginnings of what is like a forest, and about 200 or 300 yards in the distance, there is this figure, this all dressed in black, all just like a black shadowy figure, but with the distance he was away from the camera, it would have been 7 or 8 foot tall. You
Wow.
can't make out any details at all, but he's just got this massive figure, and that's the last. That is the last anyone's ever saw of them.
Wow. I didn't know
So
about the pictures, the photo.
yeah, it's, I think you'll be able to find the picture on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But in popular culture, the Yeti is an enormous, shaggy ape man with huge feet, aggressive saber-like teeth. Its fur is either grey or white, and it is often depicted roaming the snowy mountains alone, a feral throwback to our violent evolutionary past. Is there anything to this mythical? Is there anything to this mythical figure beyond tall tales and vivid imaginations? In the last few years, modern genetics have brought us to bear on this Himalayan Yeti. As a result, we may finally be able to put this mystery to bed. The Yeti is one of several supposed ape men. Elsewhere in the world, people tell tales of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, which are beyond the scope of this article. The Yeti figure has its origins even in folklore. Just 1 second while I have a drink. The character is ancient and an important part of the legends and the history of the Sherpa, the communities that have lived at the average altitudes of 12,000 feet in eastern Nepal. Now, these have been spotted all over Russia, or what was Russia when it was before Russia broke up. They've been seen all over, from Kazakhstan, all the way around Russia, and obviously around the Himalayas, around Mount Everest, and it's just really, really crazy, really crazy that there are so many similarities, and you've got to bear in mind these two cultures. You've got North America, you've got Russia. There are native, obviously got the Native American people in North America, and in Russia you have the Inuit people. They have got cave drawings and they have got the same kind of legends, obviously with a different name, Yeti, but the similarities are so the same. The similarities are so the same. But yes, it's scary how alike these stories are. So that has got to lead some credence to the fact that there's something going on, whether it be Bigfoot, whether it be the Yeti. There's something going on.
Right. Do you know that there's a town in Texas called Bigfoot, Texas?
No, I didn't know that.
There is, and apparently there's a whole bunch of sightings of Bigfoot in Texas. Not, I think people think when they think of Texas, they think we look like Arizona, which is a desert, but we don't. Parts of Texas do. Don't get me wrong, like the Panhandle, but we have it's green and there's trees, and I have a lot of trees where I live. But if you go east into Texas, they call it hill country, and they said that apparently that there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings there. There's a Bigfoot research center in there. Who would have known? And I gotta tell you the name of one of the things. This is so. Let me see if I can find it real quick. One of the things they call it in Texas. Hold on a second. Okay, so perhaps it isn't really surprising that Bigfoot sightings would be reported in the piney woods of East Texas. I gotta tell a story about that real quick. I took my son when he was like 7, something like that, to Arkansas. We had to drive through the wooded parts of Texas, which is really so beautiful. And he didn't want me to roll down the windows, because I was rolling down the windows because you could smell the trees and everything. And I'm not telling you this story, Rob, because you know this story. But he wouldn't. He kept asking me to please roll the windows up, and I didn't know why exactly. Then we got to Arkansas, and I took him to a gold mine, not mined. And on the way there, you had to swerve through all this forest, and I had my window down, and he goes, "What is that smell?" And I said, "Well, that's nature, buddy." And he goes, nature reeks. So, yeah. Anyway, what exactly would Bigfoot be doing in the wide open plains of Texas? Well, this isn't the wide open plains of Texas, but they did see one in the Lubbock area, and it was reported that there was footprints photographed in Yellow House Canyon, just south of Lubbock Lake. Apparently, there have been other rumors of creatures in the area, and this is what they call it there. Are you ready?
Yeah.
That canyon thing. And it's spelled Thang. I'm not just putting a twang on it. Canyon thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Wilf. Why is Wilf so upset?
I don't know. It's because he's. I'm sorry, everybody. That's my little dog. My daughter's just getting to take him for a walk, and he's an idiot, basically. I'm really sorry.
He's okay. He's just a dog. So, have you ever heard the recordings of a Bigfoot yelling?
Yeah, I used to watch a program. I don't know if you had it on in America called Finding Bigfoot, and they went all over North America. I think they went to some places in the Himalayas as well, and they used to go out every night. There was a team of them. There was one guy who was 6'6". Who the reason I'm mentioning his size is because they used to, when people had seen Bigfoot, they used to use him as a size guide, because obviously if he went and stood where the people saw the Bigfoot, and bearing in mind he was 6'6", nearly 6'7", if the Bigfoot was bigger, or if they said that, obviously then we're looking at into the 7-8 foot range. And there was one girl there who was a skeptic. She didn't believe. She was a scientist. And there was a couple of others as well. And it was really interesting. I think you would have liked it, actually, Trace. It was quite good. But, yeah.
Yeah, the scream is super scary.
Yeah, sorry, that was the question you asked me. Yes, it is very, 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 very scary. And it's on. I can't even. It's like a scream, part scream, part whistle. Yeah, it isn't very pleasant.
No, it's not. It sounds like somebody's being tortured.
Yeah, it does sound like that.
I don't enjoy it.
I don't know why I said that with like happiness in my voice.
Yes, it does. I love that.
Sounds like someone's gonna be tortured. Yay! Well done. Go for it.
Nice.
Yay!
Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything.
There was something I was going to tell you, but I was going to talk about it. That had something to do with the documentary, but now I just can't remember. So whatever. If I remember it, I'll put it down in the comments below. But if you get a chance, watch that documentary. Don't Call Me Bigfoot, because it's these people. They really, I mean, when they're into it, they really are into it. I don't think I would really like my husband in his spare time trying to find 10-foot apes. I don't know.
That's a whole different podcast.
It seems scary. I don't know. All right. Well, if you guys want to tell us below, do you believe in Bigfoot? And if not, why not? Oh, That's something we were going to talk about. About I I was reading about how no, the documentary was talking about how they've never had found any bones of Bigfoot. It might not have been in that documentary, it might have been something else, but they were saying that like some tribes in different parts of the world that believe that if you eat the dead person, they belong to you, they're in you, that, or maybe as a protective measure so that they're not discovered, because if they do have intelligence like a human, perhaps they eat their dead.
Yeah, won't be the first species to do that.
Which, well, I guess is an interesting theory as to why we don't. Then again, if they're so remote that you have to be dropped down from a helicopter, you know, and animals would scatter their bones all over, and then they deteriorate. Maybe, I don't know.
But I've also heard and read about this the whole remains debate, whether the people could find remains and people can't find remains.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that if the, this kind of area where is we're talking about, which, like you said, you need to be dropped by a helicopter, is so far away and so out of reach of people that, and there's obviously other types of wildlife there,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be coyotes, I don't know, whatever, insects, and these, it wouldn't take long for a body to break down.
Yeah.
It wouldn't take long. And then you've got things like coyotes, which are going to be taking the bones away.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got other animals that will just,
Yeah.
and
Bears.
then, yeah, and it'll just basically sink down to the bottom. You've got stuff that's going to grow over the top of it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
going to
Mm-hmm.
be gone. It's going to disappear.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so far away and out of reach of people, it's not as though people are walking by it every day and say,
Yes.
oh, guess what I saw today on my way to work? Oh, a Bigfoot. And it's dead. But yeah, and you see that every day and every day and every day and every day. You
Yeah.
know, if no one ever goes there, then you're not going to find it.
Exactly.
You're not going to find it. And do you know something else I wanted to mention? You
Hmm.
know, when you were saying about the Bigfoot's getting bored and um, making the little fire pit things and making the little dens out of the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read or did you watch where they rip trees up from the roots, and they rip a big huge, which would weigh a lot, and then they turn it upside down and pound it into the ground so the roots are sticking out and the tree is in the ground. The top of the tree is in the ground, the roots are sticking up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And they say, well, a man couldn't do this because it would weigh something like half a ton or something.
Why would they do that?
It's a way of warning people. It's a
Oh.
way of warning people. This area, basically, it's saying, if you come in here, we're going to F you up.
Oh. Well, if I saw that, I would believe it.
Yeah.
Something we forgot to leave out is that about that Gimlin Patterson film. There was a man who came forward and said that he was in a costume and he took a lie detector test and passed it.
Yeah, I know, but it's the same with the Loch Ness Monster, isn't it? So someone came along and said it was, you know,
I mean, that could have been his 15 minutes of fame. And there are people who can pass lie detector tests. There are people who are trained to pass lie detector tests. So, that's why they're not used in court. So
Mm.
I don't know that particularly adds to his story or not, given the fact that the cleared up version is it's very clear that you can see muscles and stuff. And this guy wasn't built even remotely like the animal. But we should add that there was somebody who said that they faked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had heard that.
But all right, Rob. Well, thank you for doing this with me today.
Do you know something, Chaser? It was an
I
absolute
do.
pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
It's an absolute pleasure. Entertaining the public is what I live for.
Is it?
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
too.
You know, we're gonna leave it all out there. Leave it all on stage. That's my motto.
I agree. Just leave it. All right. So, as a reminder, Rob and I are going to go on a trip. If you guys want to see us do that, you can go to my channel's page and donate. Any little bit will help. $1, all dollars add up, and we'll mention your name in the next podcast and be very, very grateful. And if you would subscribe to this channel, that would be awesome. If you would like to be notified when my content goes live, click that bell. And what else should they do, Rob?
Well, guys, it's a tough one. You got to smash that like button.
Yes, they do.
And I'm in an empty room and I've just done a thumbs up and I don't know why.
God, you make me laugh. All right, Rob. Well, I guess we'll say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye bye.
Bye.